It's the Liberty Podcast, and it is the 3rd of November, 2023. You know what? We're 367 away from Election Day 24 when we will be changing the world by returning Donald Trump to the White House. Yes, we will, friends. This is the inaugural podcast. I might be a little rough around the edges, but so are most of us. This is my beautiful undisclosed home office. And I am happy to have some company in here because usually it's just me and the dog. So this is a nice turning of the page, a new chapter here in my humble abode. So let's get right to it. I've got a bunch of things that are on my mind, and I've written some of them down, and others I have printed out from my laptop and my beautiful printer. So let's go to it. I wanted to point out, first of all, that we are only 4 days away from Election Day 2023. And by now, I'm sure all of you have heard all the local radio ads and all the local candidates talking about all the magic they're going to perform if elected. I had no idea that we had so many highway engineers and personal property lawyers in our community running for these offices. But boy, they sure do know a lot according to their campaign ads. So, but please get out and vote for the candidates that you've educated yourselves about. Even in municipal elections these days, every candidate has a website, a Facebook page, Instagram. They're on the radio. They've been running newspaper ads. They've been sending flyers to your mailbox, glossy mailers with all kinds of bullet points and posed photography, and it's quite a large waste of money, really. But nonetheless, November 4 is coming. That's the end of early voting, which is Saturday, until 3 p.m., 8 to 3 Saturday. The more ag center, I call it the aggravation center. It's actually the agricultural center in Carthage. And then Election Day, Tuesday, 7 November. And for all of you folks who didn't make it to early voting, or maybe you just prefer to be like a normal person and vote on Election Day, that's what I do. You've only got 13 hours during which to vote on Election Day. I know it's going to be tough to squeeze in that 15 minutes that it takes to go fill out your ballot, but it might even not take that long because in most communities you're voting for maybe a mayor and a council person or two. In Pinehurst we have 3 gentlemen running for mayor, and believe me, no matter who wins, and I know who I want to be ascendant on that day would be my friend and fellow patriot Kevin Drum. But whoever prevails in that race, believe me, it'll be the beginning of a new day for Pinehurst and the end of a regime of darkness, shall we say, ladies and gentlemen. What I'd like our local elected officials to focus on is just, basic community safety, working with law enforcement, and how about beautification? More flowers, more beauty. I walk down the main street of Blowing Rock, North Carolina in the summertime, and it is bursting with color. They have a garden that is breathtaking. Pinehurst needs that. Southern Pines needs that. Aberdeen, we all need that. Southern Moore County, we need to beautify and then unify. See, I just did your campaign for you free of charge. I do that a lot. A lot of free advice comes out of this noggin right here, folks. Hey, I don't know if you're a big baseball fan or not. I'm not anymore. I was as a kid. But guess what? The other night, the Texas Rangers won the World Series. That was notable for a couple of reasons. One, they're the Texas Rangers, and they've never won the World Series before. They've been in the World Series, but they've never won. So that was big. But here's the bigger story. They were, across this past baseball season, the only Major League Baseball team which did not inflict upon its fans and viewers a gay pride night at the ballpark. They weren't having it. It's Texas, but they don't do that stuff. And now they're the World Series champions, and I'd like to think perhaps there was some divine providence there. And congratulations to the Rangers. I happen to know that our former president, George W. Bush, Bush 43, uh, he may have a financial stake in the Rangers, but he's certainly a big Rangers fan. And threw out a first pitch in one of their home games during the World Series in the past week or so. Didn't quite get it into the catcher's mitt, but he's taken a little off his fastball since the days after 9/11 when he threw that perfect strike in Yankee Stadium at just the very moment when the nation needed a president who could throw a hard ball, if you know what I'm saying. So anyway, congratulations to those Rangers. And we've talked about the local races, so I'll take that sheet away. And I've mentioned, I think, that we've only got 367 days to get ready for the next election, not just for president, but some key races. In fact, later this month, Dan Bishop, who is running for Attorney General of North Carolina, is coming to Moore County to raise money because you can't get there on good looks alone. Right, Dan? He'll be here, I think it's November 27, but we'll give you more details on that as we draw closer. It'll be right after Thanksgiving. Dan is leaving, eventually will be leaving the U.S. Congress, where he has been a firebrand, one of the 20 who helped bring down Kevin McCarthy, and was a great counterpart to the weaselly little Patrick McHenry from the 4th District of North Carolina, who was the sort of Alfred E. Newman stand-in for a while there as House Speaker pro tem. But now he has been skedaddled off to his little irrelevant office down some hallway somewhere in the Capitol. And we have a new speaker, and a new day has dawned in Washington, D.C. So that's big. So we'll be voting for governor of North Carolina, attorney general, lieutenant governor. I think there's about 7 guys running for lieutenant governor in North Carolina. That's fine. I met one of them the other day at the Moore County Republican Women's Luncheon. He is currently the sheriff in Rockingham County, and a fine and upstanding man. He was a Trump field coordinator during the 2020 election, he told us. And a very fine man, and his name is escaping me, so I'm not going to pretend that I remember his name. Sorry, Sheriff. Let's just call him Sheriff of Rockingham. How about that? That's sufficient for now. And then, of course, there will be congressional races. Richard Hudson just announced that he's running again as our congressman in District 9. The maps have been redrawn permanently for, we hope, for 24. And we keep Richard Hudson as District 9, and he will be running for, I think this is going to be his 8th term, maybe. 8 times 2 is, no, not that many. 6th term, maybe. 6 times 2 is 12 for all you Democrats keeping score at home. Richard Hudson, who I think sometimes is a little too cozy with the establishment in Washington. We're supposed to be excited that he's like the 4th ranking most powerful congressman in Washington. I'm not sure that we are interested in power as much as we are in being attendant to the requests and concerns of the constituency, shall we say. So anyway, we'll keep you well informed on the road to 2024, 367 days hence, as we like to say in the underused words department. Hence is an excellent word to drop in on your day-to-day conversations, except perhaps maybe at some of the local drive-thrus. That might not go over too well. But I'd like to talk a little bit about the long overdue conviction of Sam Bankman-Fried, who I guess we ought to now call him Sam Badman Fried, because he's going to prison for a long time. And unlike Donald Trump, he actually earned the court dates that he has recently endured, and he was convicted on all counts. I think there were 7 counts, and he's going off to prison, and he will be able to count his little useless bitcoins from here to eternity. But you know what's interesting about the freedman is that you might recall that a lot of celebrities and politicians really glommed onto him when he was at the peak of his con that he was pulling on everybody, including none other than the beloved turtle in the U.S. Senate. That would be Mitch McConnell, the Republican minority leader. Mitch McConnell from Kentucky, the senator who has no fire in his belly, in contrast to the great Rand Paul. But do you know, according to recent reporting, and I'm just going to read this for you from the big computer screen here, it's no secret, says this news dispatch, that Mitch McConnell is a downright traitor. But just how low will he go to destroy Donald Trump and the entire America First movement? Well, it's depths you couldn't even fathom. In fact, Globalist Mitch, that's his nickname, Globalist Mitch, was so hell-bent on destroying America First, he actually collaborated with Sam Bankman-Fried to sabotage MAGA candidates. How about that? So there's an author named Michael Lewis, and he was famous for writing a bestseller called The Big Short, which of course delved into the swampy world of Wall Street. And the reporting goes like this about Mitch McConnell. Minority Leader, I wish he was Majority Leader. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell reportedly held secretive meetings with Sam Bankman-Fried, or Fried as he is now, and persuaded the disgraced former FTX CEO to donate millions of dollars to anti-Trump Republicans. McConnell gave the Democrat megadonor a list of Republican candidates who were running against President Donald Trump's endorsements in the 22 elections. The meeting was revealed by Michael Lewis, as I mentioned, the author of The Big Short, during an interview with 60 Minutes just last Sunday. He also appeared on the left-wing show 60 Minutes. It's left of Attila the Hun. His new book is called Going Infinite. The new book centers around disgraced FTX founder Fried. So I suggest that you might consider going to your local independent bookstore, or if you have to, go over there to godforsaken Amazon and pick up a copy of Going Infinite, to see what Michael Lewis, who's an excellent reporter and author, to see what he might have to say about what he discovered about the cozy relationship between Turtle and Fried. And by the way, I'm not piling on Mitch McConnell. There were, the Clintons loved, but Sam Bankman-Fried, all kinds of Democrats. There's video of the awful Congresswoman blowing him a kiss. The Congresswoman from California, who is the one who told her constituents to attack Republicans when they saw them at grocery stores and at gasoline stations and the like. She's a real sweetheart, and I'll think of her name in a minute. I don't want to look away from this camera because I love the camera. I want to just love this camera and gush with intellect for all of you to the best of my ability. Not on my own, of course. I'll be borrowing from the writings of many fine people. How about Jason L. Riley? He writes a fabulous weekly column for the Wall Street Journal, one of the few reliable Wall Street Journal columnists left. It's called Upward Mobility. And it is important to note that Jason O'Reilly is a conservative black American. And that's important because of the subject matter that he takes on. His recent column, dated October 31, appropriately published on Halloween, Black Lives Matter and the world's oldest hatred. BLM's praise for Hamas's resistance, quote unquote, comes as no surprise to those paying attention. Many who rushed to support Black Lives Matter following the death of George Floyd, including professional sports leagues, Fortune 500 companies, and placard-waving suburbanites, you probably know some of them, they're quite annoying. Now they seem shocked, I say, at how BLM reacted to the October 7 terror attack on Israel. Yet nothing could have been more predictable. During the previous round of major violence between Israel and Hamas in May of 2021, BLM made its position clear. Quote, Black Lives Matter stands in solidarity with Palestinians. We are a movement committed to ending settler colonialism in all forms and will continue to advocate for Palestinian liberation. After Hamas's October 7 attack on Israeli civilians, including infants whose heads were summarily removed from their bodies by savages who ought to be blown off the face of the earth as soon as possible, the same activists were just as unambiguous about which side they were taking and why. While the body count in Israel was still being tallied, BLM groups in Los Angeles, Chicago, and Washington issued statements supporting Hamas's tactics. Their resistance must not be condemned but understood as a desperate act of self-defiance. BLM Grassroots in Los Angeles posted on Instagram. As a radical black organization, the post continued, it sees, quote, clear parallels between black and Palestinian people. BLM Chicago tweeted an image of a Hamas paraglider with a Palestinian flag attached to his parachute and the caption, I stand with Palestine. I thought Jason L. Riley did an excellent job of once again pointing out not only why BLM is so dangerous and so hideous and why it has no place on our college campuses or in our cities, no place being donors even for Democrats. Even a Democrat ought to have the sense of decency not to take money from these people. I'm sure many of them do, nonetheless, and I think we know who they are, such as our dear friends, the Jihad Squad, AOC, and Rashida Tlaib, and Ilhan Omar, Madam Omar, and all those other people who walk around the Capitol with bomb vests on all the time. Just in case, they get the high sign from the command center. Hey, how about this story? You might have seen the other day that Joe Biden signed an executive order, sort of detailing how the White House would be supportive of the development of artificial intelligence. This is the same White House, by the way, that just declared that they had formed a commission to study Islamophobia in the United States, even as Hamas continues its reign of terror in Israel. You can't make this stuff up. But as wiser folks than myself have pointed out, the Biden administration desperately needs the Muslim vote in key states in the United States, like Minnesota and Michigan, where there are huge pockets of Muslim communities. And they need those votes. They think the only way they can get them is to pander to them now, even as terror has come to Israel. Even as we continue to send money to Ukraine so that Volodymyr Zelensky can drink the finest champagne and coat his favorite crackers with the best caviar money can buy, and God only knows how many private jets they're buying and yachts and homes on the French Riviera and the coast of Croatia and all those other places that they like to go when they're not cowering from Russian bombs. Breitbart reports on 1 November, so this is fresh off the presses, ladies and gentlemen, Joe Biden's AI oligarchs have a plan for our future. Harness the U.S. government, team with China, and, quote, break capitalism, end capitalism. Shocked? Are you shocked? I'm not. But when you read this stuff, it still kind of shocks you that they're this blatant, that they're this brazen in their hatred for everything that you and I fight for every day and everything our founding fathers gave their lives for. And here we are, less than 250 years later, and we're still surrounded by enemies within. There's more of them than ever because they're coming across the southern border. So here's what Alexander Marlowe writes for Breitbart.com. No administration in history has been so thoroughly infiltrated by the influence peddling industry than Joe Biden's administration. The entire world knows that Biden's administration is for sale. From foreign governments to America's tech and defense sectors, the money will stay flowing so long as Biden's policies stay favorable to them. This is a running theme in nearly every chapter of Mr. Marlowe's latest New York Times best-selling investigative book, Breaking Biden. Breaking Biden. So I've given you two must-read books in just a short period of time. I've given you Michael Lewis, Going Infinite, on the decline and the rise and fall of Sam Bankman-Fried. And now I'm encouraging you to give a read to Breaking Biden by Alex Marlowe, subtitle, Exposing the Hidden Forces and Secret Money Machine Behind Joe Biden, His Family, and His Administration. Writes Marlowe in this article, the latest and by far the scariest way Biden world intends to accelerate this trend is with artificial intelligence. Earlier this week, Biden announced an AI executive order that contains, excuse me, I had a Joe Biden moment there, that contains the beginnings of a blueprint to create a permanent majority for the left wing. Excuse me. You know, it's cold and flu season, so we're allowed to cough on the camera. I don't have a cough button. This is not a radio studio. Anyway, earlier this week, Biden announced this AI executive order that contains the beginnings of a blueprint to create a permanent majority for the left wing. Though it was framed as an effort to regulate the AI sector, Biden's approach is, quote, more carrot than stick. It appears as though the Biden administration's first goals when it comes to AI, artificial intelligence, for those of you who aren't very, naturally intelligent, it's to use robots to enforce censorship of, quote, here's your favorite one, misinformation, i.e. normal, conservative, well-informed thought, the kind that you and I exchange with each other in loud voices, especially in public places, so that any nearby Democrats and lefties and Marxists will need to skedaddle to the nearest restroom to put their heads in the sink because their hair is on fire, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we do, isn't it? All day long. Anyway, Breitbart, there it is. Go to Breitbart.com, search for Alexander Marlowe, and this is quite a lengthy article here. I printed out to about 5 pages. I won't read it all to you now, but this is the kind of stuff you got to be aware of. These executive orders come and they go. The mainstream media won't delve into what they really mean. They'll just show you the photo op of Joe with his crayon, signing the order like this. Well, he's, got his little bunny slippers on under the desk. So anyway, read that at your earliest convenience, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the Daily Mail of the United Kingdom, which does some incredible investigative reporting, in my youth, which was just recently, I remember growing up as a guy who was in the newspaper business and who wanted to be a journalist from the time he was a boy. We always mocked British media. It was tabloid journalism. It was, made up stuff. Well, I think the tables have actually turned in a matter of decades here. And now the Daily Mail out of the UK, which never really was a tabloid, but is one of their largest newspapers and by extension, largest digital media platforms. The UK Daily Mail does the reporting that none of our major newspapers will do in this country. Their latest report is that U.S. taxpayer money was used, you're not going to believe it, but you probably will, to experiment with coronaviruses from the Chinese lab thought to be the source of the COVID pandemic more than a year before the global outbreak. Okay, let's do our math now. Remember, it was March 2020, we were cruising along, we were going to have a good year. Trump was going to get reelected, the economy was rolling, gas was $2.12 a gallon. You remember that, don't you? I do. And then all of a sudden, a pandemic was declared by WHO, and we said, what? Well, this article is telling us that all of this stuff was, the dominoes were starting to fall a year before that, so early 2019. The National Institutes of Health, under Dr. Anthony Fauci's leadership, infected 12 Egyptian fruit bats. Are you allowed to say fruit bat? Oh, whatever. They infected these 12 Egyptian fruit bats with a SARS-like virus called WIV1 at a lab in Montana in 2018. I knew there had to be something going on in Montana other than bison running into each other. The WIV1 coronavirus was shipped from the Wuhan lab the FBI believed caused the COVID pandemic. That's Wuhan, China. And was tested on bats acquired from a roadside Maryland zoo. So now we've got, Wuhan, China, Montana, and a rural Maryland zoo. The research revealed this week by a campaign group determined the novel virus could not cause a robust infection. Brilliant. But the research is more evidence of ties between the U.S. government and the Wuhan lab, as well as the funding of dangerous virus research across the globe. The paper in question here was published in the journal Viruses. Are you a subscriber? I think I might have to get a 6-month and see if I like it. The journal Viruses in 2018, the study was first flagged by Drastic, a group of internet activists who investigate the origins of COVID-19 and the lab leak theory. The group White Coat Waste Project is now using the Freedom of Information Act to request more details about the experiment. The 2018 experiment was carried out at the NIH's Rocky Mountain Laboratories in Montana, which was overseen by Fauci. Wear 2 masks, maybe 3. The former director of the National Institutes of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, well, he was apparently was investigating himself because he certainly is an infectious disease, as we've discovered, ladies and gentlemen. Scientists obtained 12 Egyptian fruit bats from a Maryland zoo and inoculated them with the WIV1 virus, which was first detected in Chinese rufous horseshoe bats. They performed exams on the animals daily and measured things like body weight and temperature. Scientists also took samples from the bats' noses and throats. The things people will do, huh? Researchers determined that this particular WIV1 coronavirus did not cause a, quote, robust infection and, quote, observed very limited evidence of virus replication, end quote. Anyway, this is quite remarkable reporting here. Despite the lack of transmission in bats in 2018, similar dangerous research on viruses that could spark another pandemic have been ongoing across the globe for years. Well, yeah, we know that was going on at UNC Chapel Hill, for example. Right up the road here, up there in the blue part of the state. It makes me blue every time I have to go up there, believe me. Anyway, good reporting from the Daily Mail of the UK, and thankfully, due to the miracle of the internet, we can all read these publications without having to get on a plane and go over there to drink warm beer and drive on the wrong side of the road. So that's very helpful. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is as I said, the maiden attempt at the Liberty podcast. I am Steve Woodward, your voice of conservative reason, your beacon of hope in a very dark world. And it has been my pleasure to have you come into my world this day, and I look forward to many more days to come.